Disclaimer. This video content is AI generated as educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis or treatment. Your health concerns may be unique. Always consult your physician or a qualified healthcare provider for personalized guidance.
Chances are, sitting in your medicine cabinet right now is a tiny little bottle that promises a quick fix for a miserable, stuffy nose. I'm talking about nasal decongestant spray. But right there on that bottle is a pretty big warning, one that's created a ton of confusion and maybe even a little bit of fear. Oh yeah, we've all been there, right? You get a cold, maybe your allergies kick in, and boom, suddenly you can't breathe through your nose. And for so many of us, what's the first thing we reach for? It's one of these sprays, because you want that instant sweet relief. But then you see it, right there on the box. It's the advice that everyone seems to know by heart. Do not use this for more than 3 days. And the fear, the big worry, is that if you do, that stuffy nose is going to come roaring back, maybe even worse than it was to begin with. So, is that 3-day rule really the whole story? Well, today we're going to find out. We're going to dive into how these sprays actually work, look at the different kinds, talk about that dreaded rebound effect, and get into some really surprising new research that might just change how we think about that strict limit. Okay, first things first, let's be real. A stuffy nose is way more than just a minor inconvenience. I mean, it can totally wreck your sleep, put you in a bad mood, and make it pretty much impossible to focus on anything. It's a real quality of life problem, and that's exactly why getting that relief and getting it fast feels so important. So how in the world do these sprays work so incredibly fast? Well, the magic isn't really magic. It's medicine. And it all boils down to one key biological process. And that process is called vasoconstriction. It's a fancy word, but the idea is simple. See, when you're all stuffed up, the blood vessels inside your nose are swollen and inflamed. What the medicine in these sprays does is pretty clever. It basically mimics your body's fight or flight response. It hits these special little receptors in your nose and tells those swollen blood vessels to shrink, like right now. And it really is just that direct. You spray it in, the drug immediately finds its target, the blood vessels constrict, that swelling goes way down, and bam! Your airway opens up. It's simple, it's elegant, and it's a super effective local fix. All right, so if you've ever stood in the cold and flu aisle at the pharmacy, you know you're staring at a wall of options. So do all the differences between them really matter? Well, let's start by looking at the 2 most common active ingredients you'll find. Okay, so you're probably going to see one of 2 names on the label. Oxymetazoline or Xylometazoline. I know, they're a mouthful. But here's the thing. A clinical trial back in 2011 put them head-to-head and found no real difference. For all practical purposes, they're both just as powerful and just as fast. So when it comes to the actual medicine, you can expect pretty much the same results from either one. But the drug itself is only half the story. It turns out that how you get that medicine into your nose, the bottle it comes in, is actually a really, really big deal. Let's talk about those old school squeeze bottles. A survey of doctors found some major issues with them. The biggest one, a total lack of dose control. 35% said you just have no idea how much medicine you're actually getting. And on top of that, they mentioned things like annoying postnasal drip and, honestly, just that it wasn't as effective as it could be. And you can really see this play out in what doctors actually prescribe. I mean, check this out. It's pretty striking. That same survey found that doctors were almost 4 times more likely to prescribe a meter-dose spray, the kind that gives you a precise, consistent mist every time, over one of those old squeeze bottles. It just goes to show you, precision really matters. Okay, so we've established they work, and they work really well, especially those meter-dose sprays. But now we have to talk about the elephant in the room. The whole reason for that 3-day warning, the thing that makes everybody a little bit nervous. And this quote from WebMD just hits the nail on the head. If you use it too much or for too long, the very thing you're trying to fix, that stuffy nose, can come back with a vengeance. And let me be clear, this is not some urban legend. It is a very real, recognized medical phenomenon. It's got a fancy medical name, rhinitis medicamentosa, but you can just call it rebound congestion. What's happening is your nose basically gets hooked on the spray. It becomes dependent on the drug to keep the blood vessels constricted. So when the medicine wears off, those vessels can swell back up even more than they were before. And that creates this vicious cycle where you feel like you need the spray more and more just to be able to breathe. Which brings us right back to the big question. That 3-day rule is there specifically to prevent this rebound effect. That's the official line. But where did that number 3 days even come from? And is it really set in stone? Well, here in the US, that 3-day limit is the official rule from the FDA for anything you buy over the counter. It's been the standard for decades. But what's really interesting is that in some parts of Europe, the recommendation is actually longer, often 7 days. Kind of makes you wonder, right? And that very difference is what led some researchers to put the American rule under the microscope. So in 2022, they set up a really high-quality study, we're talking the gold standard of clinical trials, to find out for sure, does rebound congestion actually happen if you use these sprays for more than 3 days? And the conclusion they came to was pretty stunning. They found that when people used an oxymetazoline spray twice a day, they did not experience rebound congestion after 7 straight days, not even 12 or 24 hours after they stopped using it. I mean, this finding directly challenges that long-held belief that going past day 3 is a one-way ticket to Rebound City. Okay, so we've got the traditional warning on one side and this really compelling new evidence on the other. So what does this all mean for you when you're standing in that pharmacy aisle? Let's break down the practical takeaways so you can use these things safely and effectively. Okay, let's run through it. First up, go for a meter dose spray. It gives you way more control, and it's what doctors prefer. Second, even though that 2022 study is super promising, the risk isn't totally gone. Using these for a really long time or way too often can still cause that rebound effect. Third, and this is just basic hygiene, people, never, ever share your nasal spray. Gross. Fourth, the big headline here, the new research suggests the risk inside that 7-day window might be a lot lower than we've all been led to believe. But last, and honestly this is the most important one, if your stuffy nose just isn't getting better, stop guessing and go talk to a healthcare provider. And all of this really leaves us with a pretty interesting question, doesn't it? As science keeps moving forward, how do we balance those official warnings on the box with the very latest evidence? It's a great reminder that our understanding of medicine is always changing. And sometimes the most important thing is being able to make your own informed decision. Thanks for tuning in.